Hello everybody, it's Ben from Powerflies Gaming, and today we're going to start a new kind of campaign in the wonderful game of Banished. Now, I am playing with the New Frontier mod, which is really, really cool. I love this mod. What do I want to call this? Hmm. TG. Alright. PTG Town. We're going to set it to medium. Disasters are going to be off. It's going to be a very large map. Alright, that sounds like a, let's see, sounds like a good idea. Okay. So, just to give you guys a quick little overview, this is Banished. It's a really fun game. I personally really enjoy it. The mod that I have installed for it makes it a lot of fun too. It adds an element of design and an element of I don't really know. It's an element of artistic liberty that you don't normally have in a game like this. Um, I mean, it's micromanagement, the game, but it's a lot of fun. And when you play games like this, when you fool around with how things look and how things sound and how things operate, games like this can be a lot of fun and can really, it can really change how you look at a game and how you decide, oh, here's what I'm going to do with this. So, let's take a look at what we have for a map. Let me just bring up the things that I know I'm going to need. Put the professions in this corner, vent log down here. I'm going to bring up the map just quickly, just so that we can take a look around. Okay, so here's where we're going to start out. Looks like a pretty good area. We've got a whole bunch of territory up here. This looks like it's the main river right here. Does it pass where we're starting, however? No, it does not. So if we ever do trade, we're going to have to build up to about here we're going to have to build up over to here in order to get the trade to actually come to where we need it to. Okay. So, first thing I need to do. So there's a lot of houses. There are tiny shacks, which we're probably never going to build. There are log cabins, which we're going to be building a lot of. Standard wooden house from the vanilla game, which is pretty cool. They've got these, which are salt box home, which are more like a colonial style home. They've got the stone houses. They've got these country houses. They've got these town abodes. They have these large residences, which are kind of cool. They've got officer townhouses, which those require furniture, I think. Boarding house and town lodging. These are really cool. These are like closer to like a more modern, I guess, house. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build. I've got 16 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I build things in groups of 5. So I also need to lower this down to 2, lower this down to 2, lower this down to 2, and lower this down to 2. I also need to get some food going, so I'm going to build. Now, these are tidal pools. These are a brand new building that was added by the guys who created this little mod. Essentially what this does is it goes around and collects clams and oysters and stuff like that. I don't actually think I can fit that there. So I'm probably going to have to get started as quick as I can on like a couple of farms. Now, most efficient farm I have read is 11 by 11. So I'm going to build 2 of these quick as I can. This one will actually be up and running. I'll grow broccoli here. I'm going to pause like 2 of these, 3 of these houses. Let them work mostly on this to get the food up and running as quick as we can. And then I'm going to task the rest of my laborers with just quick removing what they can from right here and gathering wild foods from this general area. So, probably times 5 is as high as I'm going to go with this for now. Let me just quick do this as well. Whatever this is, I don't know what this is. Okay, so let me quick pause this again. You know, with squash, 1, 2, 3. Alright, we're gonna build this and this. Only gonna put 2 people in as builders, and there we go. Because we need the laborers to actually move things to and from these places. Potatoes, that should last us like a little bit, but it's not going to last us as long as we probably are going to need it to. So that and that are going to get going once that's built. There's going to be 1 house all set soon, hopefully. Perfect. They'll keep going down the line on building these houses while these guys get the farms underway. We're probably going to have a pretty cramped first winter here. Another thing that I really need to do is get a chopper, because for now we're not going to need like the huge amount of why does that need? That just needs 3. Okay, perfect. I just need this done. This should be done pretty quickly. We're going to have to be very careful about how we expand, especially early on. Because if we expand too quickly, we're going to start running out of food, but if we don't expand quick enough, our population is going to become really old really quickly, and in this game, having a really old population is really bad because you end up losing like a lot of your people over time to, to disease and to old age, which it gives an element of, oh, I have to be very careful about, when I build things and how I build things and who I have do what. Let me just turn this volume down a little bit. You also have to be kind of paranoid about, okay, so I'm building all of these houses. Do I have enough food to feed my population if, half my population becomes adults relatively quickly? One thing that this mod also added is the ability to kind of change terrain as you need it. So once they chop down this tree, once my people chop down this tree, I'm going to look into whether this terrain here needs to be flattened a little bit. Because if it needs to be flattened, I need to do that relatively quickly. We've got the squash, we've got the broccoli. The broccoli will probably finish off first. And will probably be produced first. That should be good. I don't have any animals, which is a bit of a problem, unfortunately. When you have like livestock and stuff, you do have like a bit of an advantage in comparison to other people. But the reason I'm building these log cabins is because these actually stay warmer. In my opinion, they stay warmer than the traditional wooden homes from the vanilla game. So actually, let me just pause the game again. I'm just gonna quick build or plan out how this area is gonna expand. Let me just quick pause all of these. Is that up too much? That is up too much. Okay. I'm gonna have to just quick remove that. Okay. So we should be able to keep up with the demands of our people early on. It's going to be the later game where we might start running into trouble. Especially with, this is kind of a small stockpile of wood and supplies. So we're going to relatively quickly run out of that. We're going to relatively quickly run out of space in there. And we are producing our first thing of broccoli. It's going to be nice. Now, one thing I'm going to need to do after I kind of settle this whole area out, probably I'm going to need to build maybe 2 more farms. I want, for the sake of getting this kind of started a little bit quicker, just kind of cover up parts of this little stream here. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I'm going to take these 2 people out of builders. I'm going to task them with removing more resources from up here. Hang on, let me stop. Sorry about that, guys. My Steam was still on for some reason. That was weird. So, back to the matter at hand. We're starting to fill up with food. We got, in one season, we got about 868 broccoli, which was nice. We'll probably get something similar from the squash, provided we don't screw anything up too much. Next thing I probably need to do is build a schoolhouse, or a one-room schoolhouse. It's about the same, but we'll decide that. The one-room schoolhouse is upgradable, which is nice, but we're only going to put that at 100 for right now. Yeah, I know that needs to be done. Alright. Let me actually check. I'm gonna build a dense orchard right about here. I think this is probably a smart place, because I think I have some seeds for trees and the like. Trees and fruit and things like that. But that's more an investment in future needs of my town, simply because for right now, between the broccoli, the squash, and the potatoes that we already had in here, we should be fine for at least this first summer, at least this first winter. But beyond the first winter is what I need to now think about, because, you know, these houses use up a good amount of food. These houses use up quite a bit of food. Each person uses up a set amount of food. They need certain resources. Clothing and tools are probably going to be something I work on acquiring next. So, we don't really have... We're going to be kind of stressed a bit on clothing and trying to find ways to provide clothing. We'll pause this. So this winter we might, you know, get a little close to losing some things, which would be unfortunate. But really, especially right now, we don't really have too many options on how we can do things. Ooh, wow, we're actually filling up on stone, which is a bit of a surprise. I'm gonna build another stockpile. I guess right here would probably be the smartest place for it. 7 by 10. Kind of. I'm gonna pause that then. Get people just quick kind of clearing this out. I'm gonna increase the priority of this. Just kind of max that's priority so that we can get this, so that we can quick get over here and take care of this. Stone and iron early on are pretty easy to find if you just go around and you look, okay, so this is where I had a lot of trees, there's some iron and some stone up here. Okay, this is gonna get started on filling up. I'm gonna keep one person in builder at all times to kind of just make sure. I'll unpause this. Actually, 2 people in builder, especially right now. I'm gonna increase the priority of this section here and this. So this will be worked on first, but anybody who's not needed to work on this will then immediately come over here and work on this. So as you can see, they're starting to clear out these trees, cut those trees down, get them out of the way as quickly as they can, collect the resources from those trees, and get them offloaded elsewhere. I'm going to up the fuel count to 200, because I know that relatively soon I'm going to need to open up some of these log cabins, start letting people, you know, move out of the home with their parents. So as you can see in here, we've got one person who's 13 who's already ready to start getting out of the house. We have a person here who's 11 who's ready to get out of the house. So for right now, I'm going to have a very uneducated populace, which is difficult, especially in which early game makes it a little difficult for you. Let me put 2 people in here. I'm going to pull 1 person out of here. They'll plant this orchard next spring, and what I'll get out of it is, by end game, I'll start getting different types of food and different types of fuels. I'll be able to cut down the orchard here if I need to. I can cut down the orchard here and turn it into, you know, pull the people out of here. I'm actually going to lower this to 1 person working that orchard, so it's going to be a little bit less efficient than it would normally be. But since I'm going to next open up this crop field over the coming spring, I'm going to open up this crop field here. So that's going to require people to actually work it. It's going to require 3 laborers to work the crop field. And this way, what I can do is I can prevent my population from stagnating a lot. Let me just see here. Collect wild foods. Ooh, There's a lot of wild foods right there. Also, because it's winter, all of my farmers here are working as laborers. So it's smart, especially early on when you need to have a very farming-based community. It's very smart to focus your building power over the winter. Focus your building and resource gathering power over the winter. Because you go from having just like a handful of people working to you have like an army of people working. I'm just going to cancel any removal up there. I'm going to focus down here first. I'm also going to increase I can actually increase this priority. I don't actually need a builder here because this doesn't require any building. It just requires that all the trees and the rocks and the logs and anything else here is cleared. So eventually somebody will get around to moving the stone and the logs and remove the trees up here. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to increase the priority of this, because since it's early spring, I still have a couple of people working as laborers who are normally farmers. So this way, we'll get this one house, we'll open up this one house, we'll remove the 3 things here. We'll open up this house, and then we can start actually increasing our population a little bit, which is immensely helpful. I'm also going to build a road right here, leading right in front of all of this. When I start, acquiring like stockpiles of stone and iron, I'll upgrade that probably first to a stone road, then later on I'll upgrade it to like a brick road, to kind of, oh, cool. I can actually cross this if I want to with like a really almost rickety kind of system. What I should probably do right now for over the to build over the winter is I should probably come not too far away, but far enough away where I'm not overlapping this line with. So probably like right here for now, I guess, will be where I drop it. I'm going to pause that right now, but once it turns winter, I'm going to turn on this hunting cabin. I'm going to let my people just clear out the area around it. Ooh, excuse me. So that I can go, okay, we have X many supplies of X. We can turn on the hunting cabin, get some extra foodstuffs. What I also need is a blacksmith's. And I'm probably going to put that right back here next to where we're dropping off all of our wood and our iron. Again, I'm going to pause this because right now we can't really afford to do that. I also need a tailor. So probably right behind the blacksmith, I'm going to put the tailor. Perfect, right there. We're going to pause that again. So a lot of this game is, making sure that you build up slow enough that you're not exhausting what little resources you may have in an area, but expanding fast enough to accommodate the needs of your populace. So for instance, right now, over the winter, I'm going to need to invest in not quite getting this up and running, but more in getting this up and running, so that next season, I have a little bit more food, I can expand a little bit more, my people will be a little happier because they're getting a little bit more food per year. They're getting a little bit more food over the course of time. Another thing is making sure that as you build things, you keep jobs relatively close to homes, so that your people don't have to travel like excessive distances to go and get a meal from home, or get supplies from home, or if they're cold, it doesn't take them like an extremely long time to get where they need to get going. Because I'm getting more laborers now, I'm going to open up another house. I'm also, for the sake of getting this up and running, going to increase its priority to as high as I can get it. So all of my laborers devote most of their time to getting this place cleared out. Because food, probably next season, food is going to start becoming an issue. Because we don't really have huge stockpiles. I'm actually going to increase my fuel limit to 300 now, because I have a huge stockpile of logs. This is big, especially for early game. Anything more than like 300 is a very large stockpile of logs in the early game. By late game, this is going to look like peanuts in comparison to what we're going to be able to pull in. In some maps that I've played on, I've pulled in upwards of like 6,000 logs. I've had like a reserve of like 20,000 logs. And I had my fuel limits like way up, like 500, 600. One thing that that I'm going to probably need to worry about next, with this blacksmith, I'm actually going to turn that on and get that kind of, at least get the materials that it needs there. One thing you could do is turn this on for a little bit, wait until all the materials get there, and then pause it. Because essentially what that does is it clears the area, it makes sure that, anything that needs to get out of that area gets out of that area. But then you can go, okay, so this area is all cleared out. I can now, wait on getting this built until it needs to be built. All right, now I'm going to pause this. I'm going to throw him back in as a laborer. And we're actually now going to clear out resources up in here. Now, it's all a matter of, carefully planning things out, making sure that you don't get too big or you don't stay too small. I'm going to turn this back on, throw 2 people in as builders just to kind of clear this out faster. That's getting a little concerning. What we really need right now is iron. What we're really going to need now is iron, and then after that, after we get some more iron, we're going to need to start looking into building, we can build mines to get iron. We can also build quarries, both large quarries and small quarries. I'm probably going to build a small quarry, especially right now. Oh, that's something you see very frequently, especially early game, is the reserve of food is low. These two both brought in like 1,400 in total last season. So we should be fine right now. What I may need, once this is up though, we're definitely going to be, next season we're going to be perfectly fine. I'm probably going to devote it to broccoli, but I'm not going to work it yet. I'm going to pull 2 people out of there. I'm going to devote our laborers to clearing this area up here. We're getting a good amount of food. Pulling some roots and mushrooms and roots and mushrooms and onions from the local area. Okay, we are actually now starting to run into that. Okay, we've got like a bit of a spiking population. What I need to do right now is I need to build a schoolhouse, because this delays the amount of time it takes for people to go from child to adult, which means that they use less food, less fuel, and it staves off how much clothing I have to give them, because every time every time a laborer is born, every time somebody is born, they use up, it sets that they use a certain amount of food. When they die, that amount of food, they no longer take that amount of food away. But when a child is born, I think they use like a quarter the food that children and students, which we're not going to have any students, we're going to have plenty of children, but there's another laborer, there's a laborer right there. People are still good. We've got enough people. This is going to need to be built. We're running a little concerningly low on stone and iron, but so next turn I'm going to assign somebody to work here. I'm going to assign 3 people to work here, and I'm also going to open up this log cabin here so that we start building it. Actually, once they're done with the schoolhouse, I can just open up that log cabin quick. Because this mostly, oh no, it does use stone. Okay. 125 stone, so that's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. One thing that education does for your people is it makes them work more efficiently. So, I'm gonna max the priority on this. I really need this done. Iron, especially, is going to be a concern for us. Okay. So I'm going to try and keep this relatively... It's going to be a slow build-up. So... It's all a matter of, building up properly, making sure that things are, you manage everything the way it's supposed to be managed. If you mismanage how quickly you expand, or if you expand too slowly or you expand too quickly, what ends up happening is you start running into a problem of, oh, I have no food, my people are starving, and I'm losing population left and right, and now, because my population is starving, I'm running out of farmers to farm for next season, I'm running out of builders to build for next season, I'm running out of laborers to go pick things up and, move supplies to where they need to be. Alright, I'm going to put one person there, I'm going to take one person out of that, we're going to open this up to another family. I do need this blacksmith up and running relatively soon. I should open that up now and close this off. This needs to be built, like, immediately. I'm going to quick increase the priority of this, because this is of great importance to us. So builders will get building that. Like I said before, if you run out of tools, your people work less efficiently. So it's imperative that you build up a good stockpile of tools, that you build up a good stockpile of people, too, to go and farm and go build what you need them to build. So all these children here, these 9 children now, are actually, provided none of them grow up too quickly, some of these children will get caught by this school and will be able to go to school. And then we'll be able to, stave off how long it takes for them to become members of the population. Will decrease the amount of food and resources that they're using up. This crop field brought in 826 last season. This brought in 836, which is a little unfortunate that this brought in a lot more. This brought in less than it did last season, which is unfortunate. This is probably because we've got some people who are uneducated in the running around in the system, so they have less ability to work. They have less efficient work patterns. One thing you want to have is enough of a stockpile of children and students to as the older populace dies, so for instance, we've got farmers who are 29 woodcutter. Yeah. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These 10 people are going to eventually die off. Hopefully, these children will become students, and by the time the adults die off, they'll have worked their way through this whole system. I do need to put another person in builder just to get this thing done with, which is immensely. There we go. Pull those 2 people out. They'll work as laborers. I'm only going to build 25 tools for now. Alright, so this coming winter, I'm going to have to open up this hunting cabin here. Okay. I'm also going to need to do this. Just do a blanket removal down here. So this coming winter, I'm going to increase the priority of all this. So all the farmers here will jump out and they'll work on getting this up and running, and they'll also work on harvesting all these resources down here. Now, what this hunting cabin does is it adds a food source to this storage barn. It gives us more food. Actually, guys, we are about out of time on this episode. So I'm going to call this episode here. I will probably post another episode. There's probably be like another episode like immediately following this. But this is going to become our new interim episode. These are going to become our new interim episodes while we work on the Empire Total War series, and while I work on getting a couple of other series kicked off. I will have a video updating everybody on the status of the Empire Total War series, because unfortunately some things happened to the save files. I don't know what happened, but for some reason it's not really working, so I may have to call that series, and then we'll just move on to the next area of that series. But regardless, you will hear more about that in the next coming update episode. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Please rate and comment. Also, please subscribe. It's immensely helpful when you guys subscribe. But it has been a pleasure bringing you this video, and I hope to see you again here soon. Take it easy.